All right, for more on this, we are being joined by retired Colonel Rich Outson, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council and the Jamestown Foundation. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Welcome back to WION, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. How do you look at the strikes in Baghdad? Are they achieving the desired objectives on the part of the United States?
It's good to be with you, Susan. The strikes come, we have to remember, after over 165 unanswered strikes and attacks by Iran-backed militias, including the Houthis, including KH, the group that was struck in Iraq, in this case, in Syria, elsewhere. So I think they are a good start, in my view. They were necessary, but not sufficient. The problem is when force like the United States says we're not going to play escalatory games and we're not going to engage in a broader war, but it's faced with an actor like Iran, which has intentionally armed these militias in various places so that it will not have to fight toe-to-toe with the United States. You're essentially playing the Iranians' games. And then by allowing those groups to attack over 165 times against U.S. bases and allies in the region, you've essentially lost deterrence. You've told the Iranians and their allies, you can hit us whenever you want. At most, we will respond equally to what you've just done to us. And that's not how deterrence works. So I think it's a start, but after several months of misplaying this escalatory game that the Iranians have launched, I think it was at least necessary to do what was done yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Iraqis are angry about this U.S. drone strike that killed the senior Iran-backed militia member in Baghdad. The United States is trying to ease tensions by negotiating with the Iraqi government. How do you see these developments panning out?
Well, I'm actually sympathetic to the Iraqis on this. Their country has been turned into a chessboard between the United States and Iran, in essence. And it's sort of similar to the situation in Lebanon, where you have a good portion of the population who just wants their national sovereignty and don't want to be dominated by any outside power. And then you've got this extended campaign by the Iranians to instrumentalize the state, done through Hezbollah in the case of Lebanon and through Kataib Hezbollah and groups like that in Iraq. So the average Iraqi doesn't want Americans killing Iranians or Iranians killing Americans in the streets of Baghdad or anywhere else. So they have a point. Now, this comes at a point in the political dialogue in Baghdad and the rest of Iraq where they really would like to see a further reduction or even removal of U.S. troops from the country, because they say, look, you've been here since 2003. It's time that we look after our own security. I think it's a terrible dilemma for the Iraqi people. The United States is trying to be a good friend to the Iraqis while also fending off the attacks of these nefarious actors. So I think, yes, it's unfortunate that this puts pressure on the people that are most moderate in Baghdad and strengthens the hands of the radicals. That is, after all, Iran's game. So I think the fact that so much influence of the United States in terms of the economy and finance, all the oil revenues are processed through U.S. banks, for instance, means there's no quick disentangling this relationship. But the United States needs to do a better job of keeping this out of the headlines, keeping the fight against Iranian proxies out of the headlines, because that's bad politics in Iraq.
That's right. And all eyes are on the Biden administration to see how it's going to retaliate. So I think that's going to be very hard moving forward. Retired Colonel Rich Outson, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on WION.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.